It's Saturday, October 20th, 2018. Today, we're going to talk about Bill Hader and Seth Meyers and them writing Spider-Man. That's right, they did that one time. And because it is close to the day, it is appropriate that I talk about their comic, The Short Halloween. In wrestling, we're going to cover some more of the Crown Jewel controversy. I'm probably going to give more of my thoughts on that, the update, all that stuff. And then I'm going to briefly cover Raw and Smackdown 1000. So, stick around because this is Not Life with Adam S. Messinger.
If you're reading Saga or crying from the Muir, he'll deliver a sunset flip so hold secure. He's got comic books and wrestling all night. This is Not Life with Adam Messinger. Adam S. Messinger.
Welcome to episode 40 of This Is Not Life with Adam S. Messinger. I am, that's right, you guessed it, Adam S. Messinger. I'm actually excited about today's comic review. We're going to talk Spider-Man, The Short Halloween. I actually thought about reviewing Batman, The Long Halloween, but I came up with that idea way too late. I didn't have time to cram 13 issues and dissect such an epic story such as that. But then this kicked into my brain that there's also a short one, and I haven't read it. So this is a one-shot. Bill Hader and Seth Meyers co-wrote it. Kevin Maguire does art. And then for the colors, we have Dean White. I gotta say, I'm gonna start off with the art here because Kevin Maguire is a fucking legend. His expressions on his characters really make this book. They really fit with Hader and Meyers' humor. This allows the characters to react to certain jokes and really add depth to that to where it lands. Kevin Maguire is one of the only folks in the business that can give that type of a joke, the reaction jokes and all that, as big of a punch as it would get in real life. I think my favorite thing about Maguire's art outside of the facial expressions are his panel layouts because they're all clear and concise. There's no question as to what's going where, and it really shows how much of a veteran he is. At this point, he'd been doing comics for close to 20 years. This came out in 2009, so close to 10 years ago. So yeah, I mean, by this time, he was already a veteran. He'd already known what he was doing, and it's interesting because you can tell with certain things, he tries to give a little extra depth, and with other things, he knows when to play it simple. Like let me get into the story. The story is Spider-Man chasing a villain. He decides that Halloween is the worst because of this very problem, as he lets us know. And so he's going out chasing this guy. Well, at the same time, there's a guy getting kicked out of a bar. And this guy just so happens to be a guy dressed up as Spider-Man. His name's Ronnie. He has two really good friends. His friends are dragging his drunk ass out as he's getting cursed out by two people that look like Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. So they decide they're going to get the fuck out of there before they get beat up. His friends go back to their apartment. While they're outside, the guy in the Spider-Man costume throws up. While in the same vicinity, Spider-Man catches up with the villain that he is chasing, and the villain's name's Fumes. So it's first appearance and last appearance. And Fumes, his whole thing is he has a jetpack. While he's on the roof scuffling with Spider-Man, something from the jetpack flies off and nails Spider-Man right in the head. And where does Spider-Man land? where Ronnie is throwing up. So Ronnie's friends come and get Spider-Man, thinking that he's Ronnie. And they applaud him for not getting any throw up on his suit. And they drag him all the way upstairs and complain about how much muscle he has. And Fumes is all excited that he has found Spider-Man, that this is going to be his big break. So he finds a passed out Ronnie and ties him up. And he calls his superhero group. And he says, "You guys, I got Spider-Man. Let's kill him." The superhero group comes. They're like, "Yeah, let's do this." And meanwhile, Spider-Man has to face a different supervillain, and that's Ronnie's girlfriend. Ronnie's girlfriend thinks he's passed out. She's tired of shenanigans. She comes up there to break up with him until she finds out that that's not Ronnie. That's actually fucking Spider-Man. So, of course, Ronnie is tied up. The villains are all there. They're like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's kill him." And then there's some infighting with the group. And a lot of them take each other out. Fumes has decided to grow a conscience. He feels really bad about what's going on with Spider-Man. Like, "Oh man, I don't want to be a killer." And so he unties Spider-Man, saves him, and then right as he's facing the biggest villain, Ronnie grabs a pipe and whacks the biggest villain in the head, knocking him out. Fumes, at this point, has still never caught wind it's Ronnie and not Spider-Man. And Ronnie's there like, "I saved the day." Meanwhile, Ronnie's girlfriend figures out it's Spider-Man in their apartment. The two guys that had kicked him out of the bar followed him home. And Spider-Man has to fight fake Dr. Octopus and fake Green Goblin. And after he has that fight, it's when he sees that all the villains are laid out across the street and that this guy had beaten up all the villains. Fumes has given up his life of crime. He returns the stuff he stole. And then Spider-Man gets to go about his day. And all in all, it's a pretty good Halloween. So that's kind of the premise. There's a lot of jokes in there I'm leaving out. There's a couple of funny things with the supervillain team. That's actually where they shine the most, is they create all new characters. By they, I mean Bill Hader and Seth Meyers. That's where they shine the most, is they create all new villains, and they create the superhero team from scratch. And there's so many jokes just within those original characters that it cracked me up just seeing them, and Kevin Maguire doing a great job of bringing them to life. The concept of Spider-Man fighting a fake Dr. Octopus and a fake Green Goblin on Halloween was pretty good. And the other thing they do is that you get the characters, the surrounding characters, very quickly. It establishes their personality. You get the sense of who they are, even though this is the first time you've seen them. And it's just really great writing on their part. I would highly recommend seeking this out. It's generally, I think it was cover price of $3.99. I don't think it's jumped at all. So you can get it from a bargain bin at your local comic shop. It's on Marvel Unlimited, and it's on Comixology for, I think, $1.99. Go get this. It's definitely a hidden gem in the Marvel catalog. Stick around. I've got an ad. And then we're going to talk wrestling. Have you ever wanted a statue of one of your favorite things, but you just don't have the money? Maybe a statue of your cat. Or maybe like a bust of a historical figure like you see in the films. But you're like, that shit is so expensive and fancy, I can't afford that. Well, this is life, listeners. I have the perfect alternative, and it's affordable, and it's edible. That's right, you can eat that cat. You can eat that historical figure. And it's going to be delicious and look fantastic. So whichever your heart desires, you can run with. I'm talking about Chip Cheddar's Chislin Cheese. Chip Cheddar's Chislin Cheese will make a cheese sculpture out of anything your heart desires. How big do you want it? Chip can make it. Do you want Swiss? Does it need to be a little see-through in areas? Add that special extra charm? Chip can do it. Chip can chisel just about any type of cheese from any part of the country with his special tools and his exquisite artistry. You can get any type of statue for just as much as 10 cents an ounce. That's right, 10 cents an ounce. That's quite a cheap deal if you ask me, and the cheese is going to taste delicious. Do you maybe not like our president and you want to, take a bite out of him and put him in the toilet where he belongs? If that's your point of view. Well, guess what? Chip can make that happen. Would you like to eat a Starship Enterprise? Chip can make that happen. Chip can make anything happen. It's all up to your imagination, all up to your taste buds with whatever cheese you please. If you go to Chip's website, cccc.cc, then you can get 15% off with the code TINL. Chip and me are homeboys. He's catered my bar mitzvah. I had that when I think I was 25. He covered my sister's quinceañera. In fact, he did that last year. Her nieces and nephews were there. It was a great old time. We're all over 21, so we drank and ate cheese, and there was wine with that statue. It was wonderful. He made that from a grade B event to a grade A. Go to ccc.cc. Tell them Adam sent you, and use that code TINL. Get that 15% off whatever your imagination can conjure. Well, everybody, I hate to bring down the mood after that wonderful edible ad was just dropped. But we're going to talk about WWE Crown Jewel. We're going to talk about the whole Saudi Arabia thing. If anybody's followed me on Twitter, Instagram, it's been one of the things that's really weighed on me a lot. I'm pretty pissed off about it. But there's been some things that have come out in the last week that have altered the travel out there, I would say, for WWE. Before, I was very adamant about canceling the network if they went out there. But in light of things we learned and things that have been reported, I'm not sure if I'm fully on board with the boycott still. We've learned since how brutal the murder of Jamal Khashoggi is. It's fucking horrific. If you look it up, supposedly audio's leaked. I refuse to listen to that. I mean, they got pictures and they've identified people. Saudi Arabia has just come out with their own report that said he started a fist fight in the consulate, and that's what led to him being murdered, which might be the biggest overreaction ever in the history of ever to a fist fight. To be fair, if somebody's coming at me with a bone saw, I feel like my only option is to try to kick their ass. That's what I'm going to do. And so, the Saudis report, to me, is bullshit. I could be wrong. I don't have any proof. But to me, I've smelled bullshit in my life, and this smells just like it. Now, WWE, I still believe, should not go out there because these motherfuckers, even if MBS did not, Mohammed bin Salman did not order this murder, he did not keep a very good eye over the people he fucking employed, because people got fired and people got arrested over this. And WWE, I feel like, as part of solidarity for the country, should not go out there, should not perform until the Trump administration issues some type of consequence. Will they issue some type of consequence? I doubt it. I highly doubt it, because there's all kinds of money to be invested. The whole reason WWE is going out there is because Saudi Arabia is just throwing around dollar bills by the metric ton. Now, the other piece of information that's come out is WWE, according to the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer, WWE is only going to be making $2 million off this whole thing. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a whole lot of money. They don't come off as money hungry as they had been. I really wish they wouldn't do this show, but I'm not quite sure as a company that they have the moral ground to make the withdrawal like they had before, where it was very clear that a murder had happened at the hands of the government. Well, now the government's got and by the government, I mean the Saudi government. Now WWE has plausible deniability. They've got, they can say, hey, we believe what happened and all the bullshit and take the money, not guilt-free, but technically, morally in the clear, according, at least for their conscience and from a business perspective. And as a business, you have a right to make money, but it sits uneasy with me. It really sits uneasy with me, but at the same time, I don't feel like at this point with the information that's come out that I can condemn them for going out there. Maybe more information will come out, and maybe they were right to have the foresight to be like, we're monitoring the situation. Even though it sounded like bullshit, there's a lot that can happen in a couple weeks. Something else may happen that'll get me fired up again and be like, fuck you guys, don't go out there. It would be morally reprehensible because you have no excuse. And while before I believed it was borderline treasonous, and you know what, I would still say it's borderline treasonous. They can do it with a bullshit blanket. Yeah, it's a hard one for me. This story stayed on my mind, part of it because of the gruesome details, part of it because it's a journalist, and this guy was trying to get fucking married. He wasn't trying to go, he wasn't even trying to file a fucking story against the government at that time. He was trying to get papers to get fucking married. And so really my heart goes out to that whole situation. And I really wish WWE wouldn't go. I'm not going to watch the show. Depending on what comes out, I'll probably keep watching wrestling as of right now, if things remain the same. Because it's not as crazy as it was to me whenever this news first broke. Whenever the news first broke, I was like, yeah, you got to pull out. But as of right now, I'm not quite sure that's the right answer anymore. So that's just me. That's kind of where I stand right now. If anything else comes up next week, I will talk about it. And hopefully, I would love for things to just kind of shape up to be more positive. If WWE had real balls, they would sneak Jamal Khashoggi's fiance out there and fucking award her with a giant ass check in the middle of the ring and then sneak her the fuck out and get her into America. That would be huge balls and awesome, but they don't have those kind of balls. So that's my thoughts on that. We'll go into Raw. The highlights of Raw, we had the night revolved around Braun Strowman and the Dogs of War, as well as the Shield, and you had 2 World Cup qualifiers with Ambrose versus Ziggler and McIntyre versus Rollins. Both of those matches were really good. The main event was another Dogs of War versus Shield match that was also really good. They teased dissension among the Shield all night, And they did some really good stuff with that. The ending of the match, I thought, did a great job of unifying the Shield again and giving that feel good moment where they're all on the same page. Even though in the middle of the match there was a spot where Seth and Dean just start fighting and Roman has to break it up. Also, I fucking love Drew McIntyre. He delivers 2 different fucking claymores to Braun Strowman in this, and I would love to see a face Drew McIntyre against Braun Strowman. It's one of the few believable matches where I believe that Drew McIntyre could beat the fuck out of Braun Strowman. That's a thing that could happen. One thing throughout this entire feud between the Shield and the Dogs of War that they've done, and I feel is really smart, is they've not put Braun Strowman in a whole lot of one-on-one matches. They've allowed him to look strong, and while Braun Strowman's had some good singles matches, it allows him to give the good workers of the group plenty of time to cover his lack of technical ability. A lot of his stuff's power moves. On the whole, I would give Raw... I enjoyed the show overall. That was one thing that really stuck out to me. There was other stuff that happened I thought was pretty good, but the main storyline in the show is the whole Shield versus Dogs of War. In the show itself, I would give, on the not Dave Meltzer scale, a pair of Adidas that is perfectly in your size. Now, moving to SmackDown 1000, it started off with a whole montage of different moments through SmackDown history. You had a long-ass segment with R-Truth and Carmella doing Truth TV, and McMahon's come out and do a thing. You had a lot of good promo segments in this, where the matches were secondary. The Evolution segment was really good. It's funny because Batista was there talking about the different accomplishments of people. The crowd loved him, partially because it was his hometown. But his return in 2014, everybody fucking hated him. It was the year of Daniel Bryan. They wanted him to go away. He was stealing Daniel Bryan's spotlight. But now that he's been Drax, now that he's been a pretty cool guy on social media, everybody seems happy to see him again. I'm involved in both of those crowds. So they teased a Triple H Batista match, and they did some really good facial work there, where, they kind of hug it out after, Batista says Triple H has done everything except for beat him. And Ric Flair kind of breaks it up. They hug, and then as they're separated, you see Triple H's smile kind of drop, and him just looking at Batista, sizing him up a little bit, but in a very subtle way. I thought that was really good work. The main event was Rey Mysterio versus Shinsuke Nakamura. It was okay. It was fun to see Rey again. Rey got the pin to qualify for the World Cup. They also had a World Cup match with Rusev and The Miz. The Miz got it with a roll-up. You had Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles against the Usos. That match was meh. You had the fucking World Tag Team Championships for SmackDown change hands. Big Show comes out and does heel turn number 5,896 and destroys the New Day. The Bar win the championship. Some people have said it's a new stable. I hope not. Undertaker came out for the most underwhelming promo ever and just said, Degeneration X will rest in peace. It was decent, but it didn't feel epic like a 1,000th episode should. I would give this a sandal that is one size too small for you on the not Dave Meltzer scale. That's it for the show today. I'd like to thank our editor, Kevin Lane. I'd like to thank Dandelion Massacre for our theme song. Visit dandelionmassacre.com. Dan Faughdner did our graphics. Follow me on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, My inactive Facebook, all Adam S. Messinger, Messinger. And wherever you're at, give me your thoughts. Am I wrong about Crown Jewel? Are there things I don't know that I should know? Did you also enjoy Spider-Man The Short Halloween? Tell me, I want to know. Send your suggestions, send your comments. You can also contact me through email, adamsmessinger@gmail.com. And with that, I will see you next week on episode 41.